Tonight isn't loud. It isn't flashy. It doesn't promise overnight miracles or lottery ticket luck. Tonight is quiet power, the kind of power that works while you sleep. Because becoming the first millionaire in your family doesn't start with money, it starts with a decision, a private one. The kind you make when no one is watching, when the world goes quiet, when your mind is open and honest. As you listen, you're not chasing wealth. You're building a new identity, one your family line has never seen before. Now let's begin. Most people think they inherit money or the lack of it, but that's not what really gets passed down. What travels through families quietly, almost invisibly, are patterns. The way money is spoken about in whispers. The way risk is treated like danger. The way dreaming too big is labeled irresponsible. You grow up watching bills create tension, watching hard work still fall short, watching good people struggle, and without realizing it, your mind absorbs a rulebook you never agreed to. You don't question it because it feels normal. And that's how cycles survive, by feeling normal. Breaking the family pattern doesn't mean disrespecting where you came from. It means understanding it deeply enough to move beyond it. Your parents did the best they could with what they knew. Their fears were shaped by real experiences, job losses, debt, uncertainty. But what protected them might now be limiting you. When no one in your family owned assets, you learned to trade time for safety. When no one invested, you learned to save cautiously instead of growing boldly. And slowly, ambition shrinks to fit survival. The first person to change that story always feels lonely. There's no applause for learning what no one taught you, no celebration for reading instead of relaxing, for budgeting instead of spending, for choosing patience over comfort. Sometimes the people you love won't understand why you're changing. They might say you're being unrealistic or selfish or forgetting where you came from. But growth always looks like betrayal to a pattern that depends on you staying the same. Every family line has a moment where someone decides to pause and ask, why do we do it this way? That moment is rarely dramatic. It happens quietly, often in exhaustion, often late at night, when you realize you don't want to pass this same struggle forward. That realization is powerful. It's the beginning of a new normal. When you break the pattern, you don't just change your income. You change expectations. You teach the next generation that learning about money is normal, that planning is strength, that wealth isn't luck, but structure and patience. One decision, repeated daily, starts to rewrite decades of belief. And long before the money shows up, the real transformation happens inside you. You stop living like the past is in charge of the future. People imagine money arriving with noise, cheers, headlines, sudden wins. They picture a dramatic moment where everything changes at once. But that's a fantasy that keeps most people stuck. Real wealth is quiet. It shows up in moments so ordinary they almost feel forgettable. It's built when no one is watching, when there's no applause, when the work feels repetitive and unimpressive. And that's exactly why most people never stick with it long enough. The truth is, boring is powerful. Boring is choosing consistency over excitement. It's setting aside a small amount of money every month, even when it feels like it won't matter. It's learning how compound interest works and trusting it before you ever see proof. Studies have shown that the majority of self-made millionaires didn't strike gold or invent something revolutionary. They followed simple systems for years. The system did the heavy lifting, not motivation. Think about the person who brings lunch from home while everyone else eats out. Not because they're cheap, but because they understand direction. Think about the investor who keeps buying during slow markets, when nothing feels rewarding, when friends are chasing trends and bragging about quick wins. Those quiet decisions don't look impressive today, but time amplifies them. Time turns boredom into leverage. What makes this difficult isn't the math, it's the emotion. Boring doesn't feed the ego. There's no rush, no instant validation. Your brain wants excitement because excitement feels like progress. But progress doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it feels like discipline. Sometimes it feels like saying no to yourself. Sometimes it feels like trusting a future version of you that hasn't arrived yet. The people who build real wealth train themselves to respect these small, dull moments. They don't wait to feel inspired. They automate good choices so they don't have to debate them every day. A percentage saved before spending. Investments made before temptation. Learning scheduled like a habit, not a mood. Over time, something subtle happens. The boring actions begin to stack. Quiet months turn into stable years. Stable years turn into freedom. And one day people look at the result and call it luck. They never saw the evenings you chose routine over comfort, or the patience it took to stay steady when nothing exciting was happening. But that's how money is built, not in the spotlight, but in the calm, repetitive moments most people overlook. From an early age, many of us are taught a quiet equation: what you earn equals what you're worth. It shows up in casual questions at family gatherings, in the pride or shame attached to job titles, in the way success is measured by numbers instead of meaning. Over time, that idea sinks deep. You stop seeing income as a tool and start seeing it as a verdict. A good month makes you feel valuable. A bad one makes you feel small. And without realizing it, your confidence rises and falls with a number that was never meant to define you. This mindset is exhausting, and it's dangerous. When your self-worth is chained to your paycheck, fear runs the show. You avoid risks that could help you grow because stability feels safer than possibility. You stay in rooms that no longer fit because leaving might mean earning less, at least for a while. You confuse being busy with being important and overworked with being successful. The truth is, money responds poorly to desperation. It grows best in minds that feel grounded, not constantly on trial. People who build real wealth understand a quieter truth. Income is feedback, not identity. A paycheck reflects a moment in time, a specific skill, a specific market, a specific demand. It says nothing about your intelligence, your potential, or your capacity to learn. When you internalize that, everything shifts. You stop taking rejection personally. You stop shrinking yourself to fit what pays today. You start asking better questions, like how you can increase the value you bring instead of how you can protect your ego. Look at anyone who has reinvented themselves successfully. Their income often dipped before it rose. That dip didn't mean they became less capable. It meant they were in transition. They separated who they were from what they were temporarily paid, and that separation gave them courage. Courage to learn new skills, courage to ask for more, courage to WA.LK away from situations that paid the bills but drained the spirit. When you detach your worth from money, you gain something far more valuable than confidence. You gain clarity. You begin to see money as a result of alignment, not a measure of humanity. You focus on growth instead of comparison. And ironically, this is when income often increases because you're no longer trying to prove yourself. You're simply building steadily and honestly from a place of self-respect that no paycheck can give or take away. Money doesn't just test your intelligence, it tests your emotions. In fact, emotions are often the real battleground where wealth is won or lost. People like to believe financial success is about knowing the right strategies, but knowledge alone doesn't protect you from panic, ego, or impatience. You can read every book, follow every rule, and still lose ground if your feelings are in charge. The market doesn't respond to fear, and opportunity doesn't wait for reassurance. Most financial mistakes are emotional reactions dressed up as logic. Panic convinces people to sell when things feel uncertain, even if nothing fundamental has changed. Ego pushes them to spend more than they should just to feel successful in front of others. Impatience whispers that slow growth isn't real progress, tempting them to chase shortcuts that collapse just as quickly as they appear. Studies in behavioral finance consistently show that average investors underperform not because of bad options, but because of poor timing driven by emotion. Emotional control doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop letting feelings make final decisions. It's the pause before reacting, the breath before clicking buy or sell, The moment where you ask whether this choice serves your long-term direction or just your current mood. People who build lasting wealth train themselves to sit with discomfort. They tolerate uncertainty without scrambling to escape it. They understand that calm is not passive, it's disciplined. Think about moments in life where staying calm changed everything. The conversation that went better because you didn't react, the opportunity you didn't miss because you waited instead of rushing. Money works the same way. The calm investor often looks boring, even slow, while others brag about quick wins. But calm compounds. It allows you to stick to a plan when noise gets loud, to keep investing when headlines scream chaos, to hold steady when doubt creeps in at midnight. Over time, emotional control becomes a quiet advantage. You stop being pulled in every direction. You stop needing constant validation from results. You trust your process because you built it intentionally, not emotionally. This is how wealth grows without drama. Not through constant excitement, but through steadiness. When you master your emotions around money, you stop being reactive and start being deliberate. And in a world that constantly pushes urgency and fear, that calm, deliberate mindset becomes one of the most valuable assets you can own. One that pays returns long before the numbers ever show it. Most people think wealth is personal. They see it as a destination, a goal to satisfy their own comfort or pride. But the truth is, the first person to break generational patterns of money rarely does it for themselves alone. You're not just building a bank account, you're building a legacy. You're changing a story that has repeated quietly, sometimes painfully, for decades. The decisions you make today will ripple far beyond your own life, into your parents' relief, your siblings' security, your children's starting line, even the expectations of cousins and friends who have never known this possibility. The weight of that responsibility can feel heavy. It's tempting to tell yourself that you can relax, that your own success is enough. But real wealth carries accountability. Every extra hour you spend learning, every dollar you invest wisely, every risk you take with patience is part of a story that others are unconsciously watching. When you rise, you shift what people around you believe is possible. A young cousin sees you investing instead of spending recklessly and begins to ask better questions. A parent who once worried about bills now sleeps easier because you dared to step differently. What feels like small courage today becomes the foundation of generational change tomorrow. History is full of examples. Think of families where the first child to leave the cycle of poverty did more than just earn money. They reshaped the path for everyone who followed. That first success creates new norms. Education becomes expected, ambition becomes acceptable, and fear of taking control over money slowly disappears. None of that would exist if the focus remained purely personal. Wealth, at its deepest level, is a gift to others, as much as it is a reward for yourself. This is why the work feels bigger than it seems. It isn't glamorous. It isn't always visible. You don't get immediate recognition, and people may not understand why you sacrifice comfort now for freedom later. But every choice you make, staying disciplined when others spend recklessly, learning when others rest, believing when others doubt, sends a quiet message. You're rewriting rules that once felt permanent. You're giving the next generation a head start that your family never had. And in that truth lies more power than money itself. When you fall asleep tonight, let that sink in. Your efforts are not just for a life of abundance. They are the first steps in building a legacy, in breaking cycles, in proving that change is possible. You are creating more than wealth. You are creating opportunity, security, and belief that didn't exist before. That is the real meaning of being the first millionaire in your family. As you close your eyes tonight, remember this: wealth is not just numbers in a bank. It's a mindset, a choice, a quiet courage that grows while the world sleeps. Every small decision you make, every habit you build, every fear you face is building a future your family has never seen. You are breaking patterns, creating opportunities, and proving that change is possible. Sleep knowing that with each night, each day, you are not just chasing money, you are building a legacy. and legacies last far longer than paychecks.